Go wherever you want.
Okay, I want to say thank you to everybody for coming out this evening. We're going to start this evening out with our Board of Zoning Appeals. And before we get to that, Mr. Lehman, would you say our invocation, please?
Let us pray. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you so much for today and all your many blessings. Thank you for bringing us here safely, for caring for us and taking care of us. Help us to do your will as we deliberate for our city. Be with us and give us your wisdom in all things, I ask in Christ's name. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you. I'm going to open our Board of Zoning Appeals. Roll call, please.
Member Lehman,
Here.
Member Moody,
Here.
Chairwoman Gray,
Here. And approval of the minutes from our last Board of Zoning Appeal meeting.
Move to approve.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Member Lehman,
Yes.
Member Moody,
Yes.
Chairwoman Gray,
Yes. And our new business this evening is actually what our case that we discussed last week. They have requested for that case to request a withdrawal from that case, and I'll pass it to staff unless there's any other discussion there.
The applicant has found another way to expand his business that would not require any kind of a variance or rezoning. So he is asked to withdraw this matter.
Motion to withdraw.
Second.
Okay, roll call, please.
Member Lehman,
Yes.
Member Moody,
Yes.
Chairwoman Gray,
Yes. And we are adjourned for Board of Zoning Appeals. And now I'm opening the Collegedale Municipal Planning Commission. Roll call, please.
Mayor Lamb,
Here.
Commissioner Garber,
Here.
Member Friesen,
Here.
Member Lehman,
Here.
Member Moody,
Here.
Vice Chairman Givens, Chairwoman Gray,
Here. And now we're ready to entertain a motion on the minutes from our previous meeting.
Move to approve. Second.
Okay, roll call, please.
Mayor Lamb,
Yay.
Commissioner Garber,
Yes.
Member Friesen,
Yes.
Member Lehman,
Yes.
Member Moody,
Yes.
Chairwoman Gray,
Yes. And since we met last, our city engineer is now our city manager. So for those of us who, I guess this is kind of old news, but congratulations, Wayne. And our business this evening, we may go a bit off of agenda order here. We're going to start with the Watkins Street rezoning from R2 to MUBC.
This is zoning case 2021-02 for the property at 5450 Watkins Street. The request includes a rezoning request from the current zoning of R2 low-density single and two-family residential to MUBC, which is mixed-use business center district. The property is on sewer. It's serviced by WWTA and not the city. This is actually a case that has been in front of the Planning Commission in 2018 and proceeded towards the City Commission. It was withdrawn at the request of the property owner, who is present today, should there be any questions after my presentation. As you can see on the next slide, the surrounding zoning Oh, you're trying to turn?
Trying to, so
Sorry.
everybody can see a little better.
Okay, I think that's better. Thank you, Brittany. The next slide shows the property on Watkins Street next to the railroad. The bottom illustration shows the zoning map. As you can see, it is surrounded in the north and west by C2 zoning. In the south area, it is surrounded, or it is adjacent to residential development under R2. We have had discussions in 2018 about access to this property. Any patrons would have to access this property across the railroad. There would be one driveway into the development from Watkins Street. The current zone allows 1 and 2 family residential development, but no commercial. The applicant wishes to build a development there to provide commercial services. He can fill you in on more details on that. Based on a 2013 zoning study, commercial development there is probably what's going to happen due to the railroad. Residential demand hasn't been prevalent there. We did have some conditions attached in 2018 that are listed on the next slide. I actually went through that just now. We would require a type A buffer towards the residential properties to shield or to buffer some of the activity from the commercial development. Similarly, we would require a type B buffer. This is according to the 2018 conditions to somewhat screen to the side of the church there next to the property. We also would like to condition the height of the building. Under MUBC, you can go up to 50 feet. I think that's 4 stories. We would like to condition this to 35 feet to be at the scale of surrounding development. We would also like to attach conditions listed in point 4, which would prohibit the use outlined that you see in the presentation. With that said, staff approves with conditions, and you may direct questions to the applicant.
Okay. Go ahead. Yeah, can we go over the procedure?
Go to the meeting protocol. This slide back here. The meeting protocol, staff presentation of case, which Kirsten just did. Planning Commission will have the opportunity to ask questions of staff regarding the recommendation or some of the specifics. Planning Commission will then ask if members of the public wish to speak. Anyone opposition, please raise your hand. Be prepared to speak following the applicant's presentation. The applicant will have 6 minutes to present the merits of their request, and then the planning commissioners may then ask additional questions of the applicant. And if anyone is in opposition, a total of 8 minutes to present concerns, and that's with a total of all of the speakers present in opposition. We'll have 8 minutes, and then the applicant may elect to use an additional 2 minutes to address concerns brought up by the opposition. So I know we went through that pretty quickly, and if you have any questions, I can try to help fill you in and guide the commission from there.
Thank you. So questions for staff at this point, Planning Commission? Are we ready to hear from the applicant?
Could you review those conditions under number 4?
Sure. It's the type A landscape buffer, which would be a 30-foot buffer. Usually that is handled in 3 rows of different shade trees and evergreen trees. That is towards the south of the property to buffer the residential uses that are still existing there. When you look on the map, if you want to go back to the map, the northeast side faces the railroad. We would like to attach the condition of a landscape buffer there, which is a type B, that is a 20-foot deep buffer for 150 feet. 150 feet because we still have to ensure visibility for anyone coming out of that side of Watkins Street going north across the railroad. If we required a full landscape buffer, it would be dangerous for people to cross there because it's an unsecured crossing. We would like to restrict the height of the building to 35 feet. That matches about what across the railroad the Whistle Stop has, I believe. And then there are several uses that are prohibited, including self-storage, mini warehouses, gasoline service stations, due to access concerns.
Thank you.
I would like to mention also that these are essentially the same conditions that were on the original request for this property, and that it was in the packet, but that request was withdrawn prior to second reading, and it did have an approval at that point, but the applicant decided to withdraw, and then now he is back with a new request to rezone. So these are some of the conditions that were placed on it originally, and staff reevaluated and determined that they are generally valid now as they were then.
Okay, would the applicant like to come up and say anything to the committee? Sure. Okay, just approach the microphone and say your name and phone number.
Phone number is not necessary,
No.
just address. and
Address,
name.
okay, sorry about that.
Hi, I'm Joe Adams. My address of the property is 5440 Watkins Street. I basically ran out of funds in 2018, and that's the reason why I withdrew, and now I'm back and ready to put a building up. So there's no real reason why I withdrew. My main reason why I withdrew back in 2018. So
Okay,
that's about it. If there's any questions.
any questions?
Go ahead.
Okay.
All right.
And at this point, I want to ask in the audience if anybody would like to speak in opposition or support of this case. Okay.
All right. Thank you.
So we can do some further discussion, or if somebody's ready to make a motion.
Make a motion to approve. Second.
Okay. Roll call, please.
Is there any discussion on that motion?
Any more discussion?
That is
It's with
the
Conditions.
conditions, right? Right.
Mhm.
Mayor Lamb,
Yay.
Commissioner Garber,
Yes.
Member Friesen,
Yes.
Member Lehman,
Yes.
Member Moody,
Yes.
Chairwoman Gray.
Yes. As we approach the Appison Acres options here, I need to recuse myself because this is my street and my neighbors here. And Todd, could I ask you to take over chairing the meeting at this point?
Sure.
Okay, thank you. Sorry to surprise you on that.
No problem. So let me just ask, should we do, I'm assuming, is the rezoning item number 3 the most appropriate next first, or should we do the minor subdivision, or is there a plan to do them collectively?
Well, they are linked, and the reason, typically subdivisions are heard first before zoning, just for plats like this. And in this case,
So the plat doesn't have anything to do with the rezon?
it does, and this is the reason why. This is a simple land split. This could have been an administratively approved plat. However, because what the applicant is requesting on the plat is contingent on the rezoning itself, which is also being heard concurrently tonight, staff elected to bring this to the commission. And if any approval is given for the subdivision plat, staff recommends that it would be subject to the rezoning, because what is happening is that the applicant desires to build a duplex on the property, and therefore he must zone it R2. Duplexes are allowed. This would be allowed in the current zone. However, the minimum lot size would be 0.04 acre short in
Let me
an
ask you a
AG
question.
zone.
Let me ask you a question. So if he doesn't get the rezoning, is the plat still valid?
The plat is not valid. It does not have
Okay.
final approval because it is subject to that condition.
Okay. Okay, well, let's do, I'm assuming you got a staff presentation for the rezoning AG to R2. Can we step through that first? Is that appropriate?
Let's see, we can go. This doesn't always cooperate. Don't look at it, you'll get dizzy. Finally, okay. Kirsten and I will tag team this. This case, zoning case 2021-03. The applicant is Phil Kim. He is with us tonight, I believe. Site address 10,819 Appleson Pike. Area is 1.96 acres. Current zone is AG, agriculture. Proposed zone R2, single, low density single and two family. And there is no sewer available at this site, so therefore it would require a septic disposal system. And there is an existing home on the property now. It does front Appleson Pike, and the adjacent or the nearby intersection is a Silver Lane. And we will get into the specifics, and Kirsten, on some of the request itself, and we can address those if we need to clarify anything for the commission.
So under the subdivision plat, there is a request to subdivide the land into Lot 1, which will have the existing building. That would meet the minimum requirement for a single-family home on public water and septic. It meets it right at 0.574 acres, which is, I believe, 17,000 square feet. For a two-family home, the requirement is to have a lot minimum size of 1.25 acres. The plat plans for a 1.39 acre lot. So there is, a little bit of an overlap. It's larger than required. Groundwater has actually looked at this plat and would permit a 6-bedroom home that would be a 3-and-3 duplex building if the applicant so wishes to do that. When it comes to planning, the surrounding zoning you can see here, there is existing R2 zoning off of the neighboring street. Other than that, it is surrounded by agricultural uses, not uses, actually zones, which are residential uses. And across the street from Appleson Pike is an industrial development, which is currently under expansion. Same with the road expansion on Appleson Pike. Let me see really quick if I forgot something. Under the land use plan, this area is considered a low density area, which R2 falls into by its name. It's a low density district that houses single and two family homes.
Okay, is there any staff recommendation for rezoning?
The staff recommendation for this rezoning is to approve based on the existing surrounding zones.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for staff from the Planning Commission?
I do, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
The recommendation, the rationale for recommendation of approval is an extension of an existing zone. At some point in the past, I believe it was 1993, the city rezoned the adjacent properties R2, as you can see in the yellow on the map. And those do contain duplexes currently. And I believe most of those were built between 1989 and 1994. But the rationale for the staff recommendation is to approve. And the reason is it's an extension of an existing zone, and it still is a low density category. And so, given the conditions on the ground that were established, a precedent that was set, staff felt that was the appropriate recommendation.
Okay, thank you. Is the applicant?
So one question.
Yes, sir.
So do you have a diagram or anything or show how the structure that they're proposing would lay on the land? Because it's quite a steep piece of property. It's not like flat land. And to get enough sewer field line. I'm just curious as to where on this piece of property you see this structure, if it becomes a duplex,
It's actually in the
taking
next
place.
slide.
I'm sorry?
It's in the next slide. There should be a subdivision plat.
Okay,
We
good.
skip it
I'd
over.
like to see that, please.
If you go back.
That was it was depicted in the plat.
Okay, yeah, it's in the subdivision section.
Yeah, we saw that earlier. We briefly went through that.
There it is. So it's actually on septic. So the hatched area that you see towards the east and north side of the property is where Hamilton Groundwater Protection would put the septic, the subsurface system.
And just to clarify, the existing, you mentioned there's an existing house, which it's in the lower left.
It's lot 1, correct?
And then lot 2 would be potentially, if the rezoning's approved, a duplex up to 3 bedrooms in each
Yes.
based on the initial groundwater protection.
So they don't necessarily distinguish between individual units. They go by building. They would permit a 6-bedroom house. However, the applicant decides to configure that is up to him.
And that's based on the hatched area for the
Of how the
area
ground
and duplex.
perked, correct?
Yeah, thank you.
Yes, sir. Any other questions for staff? Is the applicant? Would you like to approach the microphone? And you've got 6 minutes.
That's correct.
If you need, if you'll give your name and address.
My name is Philip Kim, and I'm representing 10819 Appleton Pike. And if you'd approve it, I'd appreciate it. Any questions, if you had any?
Any questions for the applicant?
Would they enter the, from off of Appleton Pike or cross it? I'm trying to figure out how they're going to get into the property.
Currently, as one single lot, there is a roundabout. And we will take, so when it splits, the roundabout basically is on the lot 2 end. And we would just use that existing entrance all the way up.
Okay.
So you're calling the curved driveway a roundabout? Is that?
Yes, there's
Okay.
there's 2 entrances.
Okay,
Yes.
yes. Okay, I was trying to clarify that.
Sure.
You just take the east entrance and then go parallel to the property line, separating the 2 lots.
Yes, sir.
Going back to the back.
Yes, sir. Yeah. And topographically, just that area, it does slope up and then it flattens out. So it's very level where the building pad would be currently.
Okay. Any other questions for the applicant? Okay, thank you. You'll have a little bit of time after if there's some, whoever wants to speak. I'm assuming some individuals want to speak in opposition.
Yes.
Do we know how many? And if y'all want to go ahead and come up this way and line up. Yeah, sir, if you want to
Okay,
step away.
okay, no worries.
But we've got about 8 minutes for opposition. We'll try to sort of hold it back.
for all
of us, right? Let me 8 minutes total, so I'll try to watch our time, but does anybody else want to? If you want to go ahead and go. And if you'll start, sir, just your name and address, and then whatever you'd like to say.
All right. My name is Dennis Schreiner, 5006 Silver Lane. My property is to the left of, if we go to the other plat, please, we could see, but it's right there where your red pointer is. So my property has quite a bit of boundary on it. If you look at the property, although they say it's predominantly, R2, actually most of the property surrounding that property is still agriculture. That whole corner there on Bestmore is still agriculture. Everything up and down Silver Lane is agriculture. Single family dwellings mostly. There's not much on the corner right there of Bestmore. This puts this duplex right behind this little house there up on the hill. So it's looking down at the roof of this house, looking down at the back of my house, right at the back of my property. I have a question about the validity or the viability of the sewage by taking lot 1 down to this small area. You've got a circular driveway, which is against code if that's over the field lines. State of Tennessee has already taken a good bit of that frontage for this widening. So I am questioning that part of the viability of that sewage, and to have 6 bedrooms stuck behind my house on this property trying to get sewage in is, to me, we're pushing the very legal limit of what can happen. And we all know what happens when that happens. And I'm not going to say too much more to that. I know Gayla would like to say something and didn't realize we had a total of 8 minutes, but thank you for your time.
Thank you.
So looking at the plat, my consideration is, why was the application considered by the staff for the Best More duplexes that have a significant buffer from the sewage easement, whereas the properties on the AG side have no buffer if this continues? So the problem with the zoning, as I see it, Caleb Petway, 5016 Silver Lane. I'm looking at it from sustaining our property values. If this is allowed, it sets a precedent. It takes away the buffer from the first 2 properties here. The easement on this side from the sewage protects the R2 zone, and they have a buffer, but this will take away everything from the other side. So I don't understand why more consideration was given to the duplex side of the R2 than was given to the AG side, because they're directly impacted. Now, our place is the 3rd up from that, so it'd be the 3rd house facing Silver Lane. My concern is property values. This is going to set a precedent for R2. Then the Naffy house, which is on the very corner that's already been usurped by the 5 lane, is going to be up for sale soon. That's going to become a duplex. Property values are going to be naturally affected by all of this. Part of your zoning goal is to preserve neighborhoods. And we have a very limited neighborhood here that got started 47 years ago for the Joneses. For Silvers, 50 years ago. They need some consideration too. And if we give this to Mr. Kim, how about some restrictions about that 6 bedrooms? How many people are going to be there? How much sewage are they going to need? How is that going to affect them? So if you go ahead with that zoning change, it's going to impact us in different ways that I hope you'll take into consideration. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Matt Nafee, 502 Silver Lane. And so I'm the next door neighbor facing Appleton Pike. So we're right over here. And if you go up to the, right about behind the house here that is existing on this lot, if you were to walk that plat, you'll see a ditch because water would run off so hard that it would come down towards the house when the previous owners had it. So they dug a ditch which came to this side, to the border of our property. And that ditch ran all the way to Appleton Pike, to a culvert under Appleton Pike. If you go back to your picture of Appleton Pike for this, keep going, it will show some nice trees that are not existing anymore. There you go. So this is the culvert right here. This is the ditch that goes between the properties. That's the existing home. Water runoff was already a problem. These trees are no longer here. This culvert is no longer here. This whole ditch that ran off has been compromised by the road project. And so the drainage of that property minus all the trees that would have to come down, is really in question. And then to put septic in there on top of it. When I went and visited with the road people, the first thing that came up when we were trying to get what's the most recent is we went through about 10 different plans, and they all had red X's on them. You know what that means? That plan is no longer in existence. There's been a change. And so what I'm saying is there's still lots of changes. And to do this and approve it now, when we really don't know what's the drainage going to be like here, because plans keep changing. And there's a question anyway with the runoff already, then minus all the trees, which taken a lot of water. I just see it, if you look at the overall slope, it's a problem for the properties on the Silver Lane side. And I hope that will be considered.
Thank you, sir.
I'm Preston Jones, and I reside at 5030 Silver Lane. Been there since 1974. I think everything has been said pretty much, so I just want to go on record as opposing this particular request. I don't understand why an applicant would want to come into a single-family residence that he owned, the house that's single-family out front, and put a 6-family or whatever size multifamily, I should say, rental property in a single-family subdivision that we're very proud of. We're most of these people here, we're proud of our property on Silver Lane. And I dare say that any of the panel, if they had this particular situation come up on a property that they owned, that they worked all their life for, and built a dwelling of this type, that's going to have problems with the septic, because even the single-family residents, some of them have problems now with the septic. We don't have sewer. And I don't understand, I don't believe any of them would vote to have a building of this nature built right behind their house, their single-family house. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jones. Does anybody have any questions for any of the opposition? They all sat down, but I guess they can come back up.
I'm just curious as to how many duplexes are on the property there behind it that's already R2. Are those all duplexes? Or are they single dwellings?
There are a number of,
I believe there are 6 duplexes and 1 single-family home.
Okay.
Let me ask a question for staff, just so I make sure I understand. So is the request just for R2 for lot 2, or is it for both lots 1
Sorry.
and 2?
just for lot 2, is
No.
my understanding?
No,
Or is it
it's for both properties to make the lot sizes work under the zoning ordinance.
Okay, because that goes to my question. So currently, you could not subdivide that into 2 lots and
So-
build 2 single-family residentials. I guess I'm trying to clarify, is the R2 because it's a duplex, or is the R2 because of lot size?
So it's because of lot size. However, under agricultural zoning, you need a minimum lot size of 1 acre. It doesn't matter if it's on septic or on sewer, or on public water or a water well. The applicant's property is 0.04 acres short of this by right subdivision under the subdivision laws in TCA. And we are not sure how the easement affects that. That may be in those 0.4. So they're really close to subdividing by right.
Right, TDOT's right-of-way acquisition, fee simple acquisition from this property totals over 500 square feet. And there's an additional 4,000 square feet plus of a permanent drainage easement on this property. So those are a couple of the impacts on the property itself. Now, the 500 plus square feet, that is fee simple. The other is a drainage easement.
And the county would still approve a 6-bedroom home on that lot based on the perk test that was performed.
Well, that goes to my question. So let me ask the question. So does the easements come out of that acreage requirement? You said it has to be a certain acreage even for an R1. And I'm assuming the small lot is the lot 1 now.
Yes,
Correct.
yes.
Right. The current size of the lot as presented in the plat, the dimensions there do take into account the loss to the TDOT right of way.
Right, but not the easements, just the fee. Simple.
Correct, just the fee simple.
Gotcha. Okay, I'm sorry. Any other questions from the planning commission to either staff or the opposition on that?
And just to clarify also, the previous question about the location of the drainage fields, that is determined by soil testing and approved by Hamilton County Groundwater Protection. That was a separate action from the zoning. So the reason it is along one side of the property is that's where the perk testing indicated that it would be most effective.
Correct.
And that was Hamilton County Groundwater Protection made that call.
Okay, I guess, Mr. Kim, you've got 2 minutes to respond. I'm sorry, sir, did you want to?
Yeah, I want to say something.
Yes.
Is that okay?
Yeah, if you would, sure. Just your name and address, and then.
Okay, I'm Charles Fagorido. I live at 5108 Silver Lane. My question is, Mr. Kim is building a duplex, correct? Personally, I don't like that. Now, if you would build a single-family house, I'm all for it. But it seems to me like it's a commercial thing for you. And it affects all of us living in Silver Lake. Okay? And that's why there's a lot of us here that's saying no. I hope you hear our voice. That's all I'm going to say. One family building is fine, but not a duplex. Looks like it's getting to be a commercial thing. How is it? When is this going to stop? I mean, well, somebody else going to put in for a duplex.
Thank you, sir.
And all this zoning and all this, we'll probably approve it. But look at us, the residents of that area. We don't want to turn it into a commercial thing. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Kim, you've got a couple of minutes. You got 2 minutes, maybe a minute more if
I'll
you
be very
need it.
quick.
but- yes, sir.
Can we go back to the site map? Okay, so first of all, I appreciate your comments. I completely understand. I really do. That's very wooded in the back. I do not have any intention of clearing all the tall foliage that blocks where we're going to be putting the duplex versus where the other homes are. That's number one. Number two, my intention wasn't to come in here and affect anybody's real estate value. That's, I think, immoral. The reason why I looked at this was because when you look at the property, it has nothing to do with Silver Lane. It's a Apison Pike access and entrance. And if I can, which I'm planning to, keep all the tall trees along the border, you're not going to be seeing the duplex, most likely. And the other thing is, if it was an access through Silver, I completely get it. But if you see what I'm having to deal with on Apison, it's all commercial. I got an airport right down the street. I've got new power poles going up. I've got McKee tearing up all the trees that were there for 50 years. There was a magnolia there that covered all this, gone. So I'm gonna have to rebuild all that back up. I have no intention of leaving it bare like that. I'm just waiting for the sidewalks to come in and for them to have done their work. I'm not a slumlord. I'm expecting to bring in good tenants, and I don't believe that because someone's a renter, they have less, I guess, rights than a homeowner. So I deal with tenants all the time. I check credit scores. As a landlord, it's kind of tragic because I get I'll get like 60 applicants for one rental. There's not enough place to live here, but we keep creating jobs. So I'm not saying I'm a saint. I'm here to make money, but I think I'm creating a product off of a street that isn't affecting any residences. And I will try my darndest to make sure that it doesn't affect those beautiful homes on Silver Lane. So that's it.
Thank you, sir. Any questions for the applicant? May I ask a question? Do you currently lease that front structure?
I do. I lease it to a wonderful family. So, yeah.
I was just curious.
Sure. Absolutely. Any questions?
Go ahead, Mr. Mayor.
Area between along your property line, between you and the Silver Lane properties.
Yes, sir.
That's all wooded?
That's all wooded right now.
That's what I'm seeing here.
Yeah.
How far from the property line to the house is proposed? What's the setback?
I don't know, but it's quite a bit.
I believe it's 35 feet, approximately 35, 40 feet.
And at this time, do you have any idea where the field liners are going to go and how many feet you're going to need?
No, not yet, but it will be along the duplex side.
And I do want to remind the commission that if there, one opportunity, and you probably are aware of it, if there is concern about buffering, that can be a condition that can be placed upon, any rezoning.
That was my thoughts is along that property line separating the Silver Lane properties and him requiring the landscape buffer there, could be existing foliage that require a 25-foot thick buffer along that property line.
Yeah, excuse me, math out.
No, sir, I'm sorry. I mean, the discussions between the planning commission and the opposition of planning commission, the applicant. So
I've got a question.
Yes, sir.
I'm sorry, sir.
You said your property that you want is 1.0.
Hey, sir.
We're going to have,
A little over 1 acre.
Sure.
Yeah, I'm sorry. This is not a question and answer, but it's a planning commission meeting, and so we step through a protocol in the process, and that's why we have opportunity for opposition to speak, but that time's over. So the commission may have a question for an opposition, but it needs to be directed from the planning commission. So thank you. I mean, any questions from the planning commission to staff, applicant, or opposition?
I got a comment later, whenever.
Yeah, Mr. Kim,
Yes,
have
sir.
you had any meetings with the neighbors around there and tried to talk this through and see what common ground you could reach?
I didn't because I really didn't think it was going to affect Silver Lane. If I had, I would have. Yeah,
Thank you.
sir.
I would like to make one comment of clarification. There was some earlier discussion of commercial activity. Staff does not consider this commercial activity and does not have there are no plans or and zoning would not support true commercial zoning on this side of Apis and Pike. So single family and two family, as we've seen, is the current, and we don't see that changing. I just wanted to clarify that.
Thank you.
Yeah, I have a comment or two. I see the interest of this board is twofold, basically. to balance these two things, protect the interest of our citizens. Number one, protect the interest of our citizens. I think if we don't try to do that, we're derelict in our duty. And maximize the value of the properties that we have in the community. And I think I see that on the other side of this equation. So I think that's the challenge here for us this evening. Protect the interest, which we've had a very large outpouring of a demonstration about that, as we seek to find ways to maximize the value of the property that you own. So I think that that's what it boils down to. And I do think, I heard several months ago, before I even knew about this, there was some stuff across the street there coming into Silver Lane. And I was told that that was actually sewer running out on the ground. Is there anyone here who is aware that there are sewer problems on the road of Silver Lane from homes? I see people nodding their heads, but no one's saying anything. Is that currently a problem? What?
You know, it depends on when you go and what the weather is.
Right, I understand.
Obviously, that area is a collective area from that, it's the valley of the two rock pinnacles.
Right.
That protrude on either side of Silver Lane. So you can go 2 weeks and not have anything, and you get 2 or 3 days of heavy rain, and front yard Macy's where it butts the new road is 4 or 5 inches of water and it sits there. So all the effluent from that hillside, as you will, all funnels to that one location. And say it perks, well, yeah, it's gonna perk just fine until you have 2 weeks of rain, and then that area that is below Macy's house against the new road is gonna be a sewage ball.
Yeah.
And then it eventually migrates back onto the road, but you're not know how that flow is gonna go until the road is finished, it sits there long.
Right.
But yes, it is noticeable, I run and ride down that road regularly. To say it happens frequently, no, but it happens on occasion.
That's all I have.
I'd just like to remind the commission that zoning, as you all know, and we've discussed many other cases, zoning describes what can be done with that property, what kind of uses, and then what kind of scale, area, extent that it can take place. Zoning is assigned to every property in the city, and so for rezoning, we have a process like this. I do want to remind you that the subdivision process is independent of this, even though these two are dependent on each other, but generally those are two separate processes. And under Tennessee law, if all else is acceptable, then a subdivision can still be submitted. Simply, it may not reflect the zoning that we're discussing tonight or the use allowed by that zoning, but the subdividing this property would be a by right, essentially, endeavor for the applicant if conditions are met that meet our subdivision regulations and state law. So just wanted to remind the separation between the two, that one does not preclude the other necessarily.
Well, let me clarify that for my own benefit too. Rezoning, and let me make sure, and maybe this is for the audience too. Rezoning is an applicant has a right to apply for rezoning. It comes to this, it goes to staff, comes out of staff to this commission, and then this commission makes a recommendation to the city council, correct?
Correct, the formal recommendation.
The plat process, and it goes to also to the city, correct? Through a recommendation.
This particular plat would qualify, it's a minor land split, that would qualify under our subdivision regulations as an administratively reviewed and approvable plan. We brought it to, since it's not a major subdivision, that's a different category and requires additional infrastructure and review. This is a minor land split. Staff felt that it was prudent to bring this to the commission for approval tonight, given the associated zoning with it. but it is a minor land split under state law that would not have normally been here.
So am I understanding this correctly? If the zoning were not approved, the owner could still split the properties and build a single-family home?
That's correct. Up to a 6-bedroom, single-family home.
And so a new house, splitting the property is a separate, completely separate issue.
And that would not involve a zoning change, but that would only allow that a 6-bedroom, single-family home. A change to R2 would allow the duplex of the similar size.
Thank you.
Even with the acreage that's there?
The acreage that is there would be adequate for two
homes?
single-family houses.
Okay.
The one existing one and a new one, correct? Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, no problem. The one that exists already and the new one that we're talking about.
Sorry, and I was just corrected that I was thinking it was just over, but it's just barely under. So he still would need, he would be able to divide the property, but staff has held this up because it would be a substandard lot unless the zoning change takes place. And by substandard, it is 0.04 acre below the required lot size. I apologize for that. I'm thinking of that we were going in the other direction. A lot of moving parts tonight.
Can we ask for clarification?
Well,
It has to do with the size of the lot.
Correct.
So under current zoning, which is agriculture, a lot, whether it's on septic or on sewer, has to be 1 acre. This property right now is 1.96 acres.
Is that minus the permanent easement?
I'm not sure.
yeah,
Right. That was the previous discussion, that the current lot size does reflect the loss of 500 and so square feet
Yes.
to right of way to TDOT, which still doesn't quite, 0.04 acre will be around 1,750 square feet. So take off another 500 and plus. They're still not quite there, but it is very, very close.
Isn't there another drainage easement?
There is a drainage easement, and it's a permanent drain. There are a number of temporary construction easements during this portion of the TDOT's construction. However, there is a permanent drainage easement, which constitutes around 4,300 square feet. That would be, it's not fee simple, meaning it's not conveyed the property one and all to TDOT, but it does have constraints on it. It remains part of the owner's property, but there are constraints on how it can be used because of its drainage use.
With the changing of the road, it seems like it'd be wise to wait until that project was all done, so we can see what the slope and the permanent drainage benefits. Before we act, and then they'll be able to back up on something that no longer is going to work.
but I think staff sort of answered the question, which was sort of the question all along. The only way he can subdivide his property and put anything, subdivide and put 2 structures is with a zoning change, correct? He's less than the appropriate acreage given the fee simple.
Correct.
TDOT's purchase. So it's close, but it's not. So for him to be able to get a plat to subdivide that into 2 lots in agricultural, he needs 2 acres. He doesn't. Whether he puts, and if he gets R2 and subdivides it because it's allowed, he can still put a single family in the back. The zoning though would allow him to do a duplex. So I think.
Correct. He would do the same size, a 6-bedroom home.
So I think the point that was made earlier, if the rezoning, and again, it's a recommendation from here, it goes on. So there's really, until that's done, I think the plat's probably a moot point. But
Well,
I know we've talked about.
Well, once again, this is the existing lot would be, the remaining lot would be 0.574 acres. So the second lot would be 1.391 acres. So the minimum lot size on septic is 1 acre.
Well, and
Under agriculture.
Under
and
agriculture.
I guess we're my fault probably, because I know we're talking about plastic. I think we probably should continue to maybe deliberate on a rezoning change, because what we're talking about is a land use for this property, and the implications that land use change would have. The applicant's asking for R2, is currently agricultural. So let's try to, at least from a case perspective, stay on that. And I guess I'll entertain any additional questions or comments.
I have one question.
Yes, ma'am.
What if we moved it to R1, not R2? He could still have two houses there, right?
If you're going the other direction, probably not. But
Staff.
That would be, the question was, could that potentially be spot zoning? And that generally going in the other direction, if you will, in zoning, going from one category to another, particularly if it's adjacent to R2, probably not, because it would allow similar uses that you have in the adjacent zoning AG. It's not significantly different. So that is something that we could entertain.
Because
But it's not the best practice, but it would be, realistically, these AG properties, they function more like our residentially zoned properties. They're not large enough for true agricultural activities. Although by zoning, there could be chickens and cows and, even on these small properties. So that is one of the reasons that a zoning to an R2 or even an R1 could be construed as beneficial.
Because along Epperson Pike, even though it may be agricultural now, it could go to R1.
So the minimum lot size on R1L for a single-family lot on public water and septic tanks is actually the 0.574 acres. So this could then even be further subdivided.
There could potentially be 3 homes
On separate lots.
on separate lots.
Three separate 3-bedroom homes.
Yes.
No, I've been scrolling back and forth. I'm in those. So this does have a lot of complexities to it, and so I do. Staff took a long time to consider this, and so the time that we're putting in here is obviously reflective of that as well.
Mr. Kim, do you see a benefit of delaying this and having a meeting with the homeowners that seem to feel their property will be affected, to have a discussion with them?
I'm more than open to having a discussion, but I think really at the end of the day, they don't want me to build anything, and I'd like to put something on there. And so I think that's the end.
So you don't feel it would be productive?
I'm not saying that it wouldn't be, but I hear their wishes and I understand why they're saying that. And I think if we were to go R1 and I split it into 2 more lots, what's going to end up happening is I need setbacks per house and the buffers are going to go away. When I looked at this, it looked like the least amount of impact to that land was the duplex. To have basically a nice townhome style, 3-2 on each side. The other thing is if you go to a 2-bedroom, you get more transient population. If you go 3-bedroom, 2-bath, you get families. And so you don't necessarily collect that much more rent, but you have stability, and that's what I really wanted. So I'm more than happy to have a conversation, but at the end, I don't know if they're going to convince me not to build on there, and I'm trying to have the least amount of impact. So, yeah. But I'll take anyone's recommendation. So,
focusing on the zoning itself, I just reemphasize the R2 that was placed and zoned by the city in 1993 did set the precedent over here. This particular rezoning staff does not feel this sets an additional precedent. It simply matches the existing. Otherwise, this would be a much easier decision tonight, I believe.
Well, let me only say this. I mean, I mean, from a land use perspective, it's adjacent to an existing R2 zone, which those property owners by right have the ability to put a duplex. And there's a lot of, and I understand the discussion completely, around appropriate types of residential structures to try to meet a certain market for the population that wants to live here and work here. I mean, there a good mix of different types of residential availability for all ranges of potential people that want to live in our community is important. The discussion we have is this an appropriate location? And I think I think that's the charge of the body here tonight to try to deliberate and make a recommendation to City Council. So
I just want to say one last thing, just for people who are concerned. If we go 3 homes on there, there's still going to be rentals. I think the fear is usually if it's a duplex, there's no pride of ownership. It's let go, and you get more transient people coming in, and that's kind of what decreases value. And when you get a 3-2, especially, and how expensive it is to build now. I mean, OSP is like $49 a sheet. It's just not going to happen.
And I guess to that only point, you would still have to have an R1, and currently you've got a agricultural. So there's still a process that, and you're not asking for us to consider an R1 instead of an R2. You've sort of said your point, and what we have before us is a consideration of an R2 zone for this property.
Yes, sir.
So we'll just sort of there. Well, I think we've got a couple of options. We can continue to deliberate, which I'm fine with, or we can defer it. I think that was brought up. We can vote to recommend approval of an R2, or we can recommend to deny the applicant's request for R2. And I think those are.
And a slightly separate option would be approve R2 with conditions, like as you said, deny R2 or defer.
Thank you. What's the will?
I'll move to approve with the condition of maintaining a minimum of a 25-foot permanent landscape buffer along the west property line adjoining the rear of the properties from Silver Lane.
That undisturbed or planted?
Undisturbed or planted, whatever.
To
maintain it permanently.
Adjoining the agricultural properties to the west. Right. I have a motion.
I have a question about that. That would be on the entire west property line of both properties?
I don't believe that the bottom lot one has any. They've taken all of it when they were clearing for,
And this may help I appreciate that. This may help clarify the condition. Member Moody, would you, looking at this, would you say of the western boundary buffer of lot 2? Was that your intent?
A good bit of lot 1 has already been cleared.
I think that's the point. But to your point, if the motion is to rezone both, then maybe the intent is to create a buffer or maintain an existing 25-foot buffer along the entire western boundary. Is that that the intent of the? I mean,
That was
that was
my-
your question.
That was my question.
My intent was just on the rear lot, but if it's feasible, now where is the septic system for
It's
the,
right up to the border of,
between the two lots?
of the west side. No, it's,
On the west side.
it's that way.
Yeah, that's
So,
kind of what I was,
yeah.
So lot,
look at the aerials, that's kind of what I figured.
Yeah, all the trees were taken down a long time ago. They put a leach field there. Everything's, because that's the lower sloping or lower side. So, I mean, everything from there up is higher, so.
You can't do a landscape buffer in the septic field.
so to clarify your condition, it would be on the newer lot on the west side, to buffer the proposed duplex.
Right.
I'll second that.
I have a motion to approve with that condition. If it needs to be restated, that's fine. And I do have a second, Member Friesen. So I have a motion and a second. Any discussion on the motion? Okay. All those in favor say aye. Roll call, please.
Mayor Lamb,
No.
Commissioner Garver,
No.
Member Friesen,
No,
Member Lehman,
Yes.
Member Moody,
Yes.
Chairwoman Gray.
Abstain.
Is that a fail 3-2?
Right. The recommendation is to deny, and that will be the official recommendation to be transmitted to the city commission. And that will be heard first reading. We'll try to get that. That will be a week,
The 21st.
21st. And then it would be effective second reading. And at that point, the final decision can be made by the city commission.
So a recommendation from this body is to deny the request for R2.
That is correct, based on this vote.
And the public hearing is at the second hearing.
Okay, can you give these individuals that date? Do we have that date?
Second, I'll look at the calendar. So the first reading for the ordinance and for this recommendation would be on June 21st, which is next Monday. And then we'll have the second reading with the public hearing on July 5th.
Which-
And that will be the public
Would that be
hearing and
kept to
the
the
vote.
Oh, will we, that's a long weekend. So it will be Tuesday, July 6th, because of the holiday weekend at 6 o'clock here in City Hall.
And that's the second reading and public hearing portion
Tuesday.
for comment.
Monday.
Yeah, Tuesday. Okay, thank you, sir.
I appreciate you guys. Thank you.
So
Right, that'll still have to be voted on, and the condition that staff recommended that to approve the land split, however, it would be contingent on the outcome of the vote of rezoning request.
well, you can't recommend the plat because it doesn't meet the.
Correct,
Okay.
because it creates one substandard lot.
We could withdraw or defer.
Okay, does the applicant have to request withdrawal, but we could defer, correct?
Correct.
So let me make sure I'm correct. So if it goes to first reading and then is denied at July 6th, then we can deny it the following if we defer.
The
it,
following
or
Monday.
If it's approved, we can approve it at the following.
That's
So
correct.
What is that date, our date following the July 6th?
That will be July 12th.
Okay.
And-
Yeah, I would recommend, I'm not gonna I can't make the motion, I guess, since I'm chairman, but I'd recommend we defer, unless staff has additional comment, defer the plat until July 12th. At that point, we can take that plat up depending on.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Okay, I have a motion to defer the plat until July 12th, planning commission meeting.
And did I get the impression that after the commission makes a decision, we can change that decision? Is that what you just said?
The commission, the Board of Commissioners will make the final decision.
Right?
It will, these rezoning requests will come to the Board of Commissioners with a formal a recommendation from the Planning Commission to deny. And the Board of Commissioners can either agree with that, approve it, or approve with conditions, much like we've discussed here. That would be in the purview of the Board of Commissioners.
And based on that commission decision, we can take action on July 12th on this plat.
That's correct. That
Yes.
should be known by then.
And then does it go back to commission? Or this actually bypass the commission if we do that?
Any subdivision requests are heard and decided at the Planning Commission, not the Board of Commissioners.
Okay.
So the subdivision would be decided at that meeting by you all, the Planning Commission.
Have a motion to defer it until, defer case number SUB 2021-01, which is the Absent Acres minor subdivision plat, one that we've just discussed based on this rezoning request. A motion and a second to defer that until the July 12th meeting has been seconded. Any other discussion?
So the defer is what? You're waiting to do what?
The plat cannot be acted on because there's not rezoning. And so what will happen is the commission will act. If the commission denies the rezoning on the 7th, 6th, then we'll deny the plat. If they approve it, we can at that point take up the plat.
Okay.
And then it would meet the subdivision regulations, so that would be then a simple land split by right.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments? Okay. All those in favor say aye. Roll call.
Mayor Lamb,
Yay.
Commissioner Garver,
Yes?
Member Friesen,
Yes.
Member Lehman,
Yes.
Member Moody,
Yes.
Chairwoman Gray,
Abstain.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Are you jumping back in?
Thank you very much, Mr. Lehman, for chairing that portion of our meeting. Now we move to MR 2021-02, the approval of sewer easements, which is a mandatory referral.
That's correct. These were included in your packet. It's a number of sewer easements, as you mentioned, for improvements to the city's municipal sewer system. The tax map parcels that are affected that would have these easements, the city has negotiated, are included in the packet. And the reason you're hearing this is that Tennessee state law requires that the Planning Commission hear and discuss, if necessary, and I've got the text here, public ways, streets, parks, grounds, place, including sewer extensions and waterworks. So that is why you are hearing this tonight. And it's called a mandatory referral, and that's mandatory based on state law. And this would be the stop before the commission approves the documents themselves.
And it looks like from the information that you sent us, everybody's had these discussions, all the papers are signed, and this is kind of a formality, if I'm understanding that correctly.
Ready to roll.
Correct. It's for the force main replacement project.
Okay,
So all you need is a motion.
sounds like it, unless you guys want to discuss.
I move approval.
Second.
Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Mayor Lamb,
Yay.
Commissioner Garver,
Yes?
Member Friesen,
Yes.
Member Lehman,
Yes.
Member Moody,
Yes.
Chairwoman Gray,
Yes. And our last item on the agenda this evening is the zoning map updates.
This is an annual process to update the zoning map to reflect any zoning changes in the previous year. This one is dated June 1st, and the map was included in your packet. There was not as much activity last year. We did see a decline in rezoning requests. Of course, COVID did cut into some of that. So if there are any questions about the map itself, feel free to ask, please. And the final copy will go to the commission for the mayor's signature.
Thank you.
And again, this is an annual formality, correct? Okay.
That's correct. State law, this is another item that state law does require a certification of the zoning map annually, and that comes through Planning Commission, and then it goes to the Board of Commissioners.
Need a motion? I move to approve.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
So I have Phil Garver is moving to approve, so we need a second.
Second.
Okay, thank you. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Mayor Lamb,
Yay.
Commissioner Garver,
Yes.
Member Friesen,
Yes.
Member Lehman,
Yes.
Member Moody,
Yes.
Chairwoman Gray.
Yes. Okay, and as we close our meeting, I just had a quick question on our design review committee. Have we transitioned that work to staff at this point? Because I know we talked about making some changes and I just wasn't sure where we were at on that. Or is design review committee still?
We have not transitioned entirely, simply because we wanted to maybe come back to you all with a slightly modified proposal, if that's your will, to kind of clarify some of the things that we discussed as far as where we would like to continue with the updating the standards. And so we would like to do that, but maybe revisit a couple of things and clarify with the board.
Okay, gotcha. Thanks for the update on that. Okay. Thank you, everybody, for coming out this evening, and our planning commission is adjourned.